On the 16th of January, Justin Baldoni filed a $400 million countersuit against Blake Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and her publicist Leslie Sloan. Producer Jamie Heath, publicist Jennifer Abel, and crisis PR specialist Tan joined the suit. Justin accuses them of defamation, extortion, and other violations. He also claims they participated in a smear campaign against him, escalating after Blake's accusations of sexual harassment and a coordinated attempt to destroy his reputation. Justin didn't stop there. He also filed a $250 million defamation lawsuit against the New York Times for publishing Blake's account of events. The sums are enormous, especially considering the circumstances, particularly in January 2025, when someone's house and all possessions had burned down. Now, let's address the most popular question from my last video on the leak. Who leaked the publicist's correspondence? Justin, and everyone who filed the lawsuit provided those screenshots. As for the screenshots, showing Justin's team discussing intricate PR strategies and manipulations, we knew about that from behind-the-scenes chatter and Reddit discussions. Now we know for sure. Stephanie Jones leaked them. No, not Samantha Jones from Sex and the City. The first thing I noticed was the striking similarity in the whole lawsuiter. Maybe that's just me. I just want a break from the trash I've been reading non-stop for the past 2 days. But yes, it's Stephanie Jones. She was Jennifer Abel's boss at her company and the head of the agency that handled Justin Baldoni's affairs. Essentially, Stephanie Jones chose the stronger side in this conflict, in her opinion. She chose the stars, Blake and Ryan, and therefore agreed to get them the screenshots. She gave them to Blake and Ryan, who then passed them to their lawyers. I wonder if that's even legal. I'll answer myself. Yes. It's legal because the correspondence was taken from Jennifer Abel's work phone. It's all legal. It was Stephanie Jones's agency's work phone, and Justin was just a client she discarded and openly sided against. Starting on page 7 of the document, in the introduction, Justin's lawyers detailed the story of Stephanie Jones, founder of DNS, formerly Donny, a PR firm that found itself embroiled in a personal and professional crisis. Her erratic behavior alienated high-profile clients, and her right-hand woman in the Los Angeles office, Jennifer Abel, who went on to start her own company a month prior. Jones's behavior grew increasingly erratic. She lashed out at loyal clients like Wayfair, with furious, bombastic tirades, deviating from professional experience and strategy in key client decisions. After another outburst against Wayfair, refusing to comply with their direct instructions, Wayfair had no choice but to sever ties with Jones and Jones' work. Jones was furious at both Wayfair and Jennifer Abel. Stephanie Jones saw an opportunity for revenge. According to Information and Belief, Jones, Lively, Reynolds, and Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, devised a plan where Stephanie Jones would retrieve Jennifer Abel's phone after her departure and search for messages that, devoid of context, could be used to create a false narrative that the catastrophic press coverage, Blake Lively's heartless statements, and the public reaction to those comments were not Blake Lively's fault, the result of a calculated but non-existent smear campaign by Baldoni and his team. The lawyers argue that Stephanie Jones's role in this scheme explains her absence from Blake Lively's version of events, despite playing a significant part. The plaintiffs believe the defendants worked in concert, at least from the 21st of August, 2024, when Leslie Sloan boasted to Melissa Nathan that she had seen her messages and that Melissa would soon face a lawsuit. While Lively claimed Baldoni smeared her, the reality is that Lively and her team meticulously planned and executed a vicious smear campaign. Anyway, we might even remember this in future roasts or sitcoms as jokes. Lawyers, students, marketers, and social media managers, everyone needs a notepad and pen, taking notes and observing in detail, because it's those details that make this case so interesting. It might seem like each new update is the same, but no, new facts emerge over time, and not everything is known immediately. Therefore, drawing conclusions now is impossible, at the very least. So, where did we leave off chronologically in the previous episode? I'll remind you what preceded Justin's lawsuit. We went through Blake Lively's 80-page complaint, which her lawyers elevated to a lawsuit. It wasn't just a complaint. Then came the New Year's preparations, gifts. And on the 31st of December, 2024, Justin Baldoni filed a $250 million lawsuit against the New York Times for the very report we discussed in the last episode, accusing the publication of, quote, succumbing to the wishes and whims of two powerful, untouchable Hollywood elites, namely Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. On the 3rd of January, 2025, Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, began actively appearing on talk shows. He went on NBC's Today and Kelly's YouTube channel and gave an interview to TMZ founder Harvey Levin. Harvey, I think, correctly stated that both sides tried to distort the story, to distort reality. We witnessed this, like, it happened on both sides. Both are guilty. Lively's side and Baldoni's side. Moving on. On the 10th of January, 2025, Paul Feig, director of A Simple Favor, Parts 1 and 2, Part 2 is released this year, denied rumors of conflicts between Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively, as such rumors began to surface. On the 10th of January, Deadline reported that Justin Baldoni's former publicist, Stephanie Jones, who in December sued Justin and others for defamation and breach of contract, she also didn't stay out of it and made her legal move, served subpoenas on WhatsApp, Signal, website hosting companies Honga and Namecheap, digital publishing platform AnyFlip, and chatbot company Gab AI, to find out who might be behind the publications and websites aimed at damaging the reputations of Blake Lively and Baldoni. She decided this was the right path. Let's assume that's true. The 10th of January, very recently, and on the 16th of January, Justin filed the countersuit, as promised from the day of Blake's lawsuit. Justin is part of a group of 10 plaintiffs, including publicist Melissa Nathan, Jennifer Abel, film director Jamie Heath, and companies suing the New York Times for defamation and invasion of privacy over the 21st of December article, "We Can Bury Anyone," within this lawsuit. Because his name was also mentioned in Blake's accusations, a statement from a Times representative followed for the New York Post. Our role as an independent news organization is to follow the facts wherever they may lead. Our story was reported thoroughly and responsibly, and was based on a review of thousands of pages of original documents, including text messages and emails, that we accurately and meticulously quote in the article. To date, Wi-Fi Studios, Mr. Baldoni, and other subjects of the article and their representatives have not pointed to a single factual inaccuracy. We also published their full statement in response to the allegations contained in the article. We intend to vigorously defend against this lawsuit in court. That's the New York Times response. Blake's team responded to Justin's lawsuit, naturally, saying he was trying to turn the situation around to portray her as guilty and himself as a victim. They also added that while the victim focuses on the abuse, the abuser focuses on the victim. The strategy of attacking a woman looks desperate and does not refute the evidence presented in Miss Lively's complaint, and will likely fail. By the way, early Friday morning, photographers caught Justin with his family while he was walking around Los Angeles and simply asked how he was holding up during this difficult time. Justin, as you can see in the video, holds one of his children's hands, walks with his wife Emily, their daughter Maya and son Maxwell are next to them, and says that he is grateful for the opportunity to be with his family, that they are his support and pillar during this difficult time. Well, that's basically all he could say. This was his first public appearance after filing the lawsuit. But I'd like to add something said in Blake's response to Justin's lawsuit. Quote, "This is an age-old story. A woman presents concrete evidence of sexual harassment and retaliation, and the abuser tries to turn the situation around on the victim. This is what experts call denial, attack, reverse victimhood. The UFR perpetrator chose to use the resources of its billionaire co-founder, Steve Savitz, to issue statements to the media, file unfounded lawsuits, and threaten litigation to prevent the public from understanding that their actions are retaliation for allegations of sexual harassment. They are trying to shift the blame to Miss Lively, falsely claiming that she usurped creative control and alienated the cast from Justin Baldoni. The evidence will show that the actors and other individuals had negative experiences interacting with Mr. Baldoni and Wayfair. The lawyers add that the evidence will also show that Sony asked Miss Lively to oversee the version of the film they subsequently chose for distribution, which was a resounding success. Baldoni is using classic tactics to distract from allegations of such actions, blaming the victim, suggesting that Lively herself is to blame for the misconduct, and suggesting that the perpetrator is actually the victim. If Blake Lively had decided to simply weather the press storm she created for herself in August 2024, the public would most likely have moved on and never learned the truth about her. No one but the involved parties knew that she used threats and extortion to sideline colleagues she once highly praised to get ahead of their own premiere, while she enjoyed the limelight of the premiere and after-party ultimately, funded by Wayfair and Sony. She would have gotten away with all of that, and much more because Baldoni, completely focused on the film's success, would have kept quiet, as he did for a year and a half while Lively tormented him, his family, and his partners. But Blake Lively couldn't tolerate her publicly tarnished image for a moment. She couldn't admit her guilt. She needed a scapegoat, and instead of admitting and taking responsibility for her failures, she chose to blame the plaintiffs in a vicious and unforgivably public way. When she and Ryan Reynolds failed to get Baldoni and Wayfair to read the statement she and her representatives had prepared, demanding that they take responsibility for Lively's actions, she spent months preparing to publicly attack Baldoni, falsely claiming that he sexually harassed her. The same fabricated stories she had so carefully controlled were now publicly used to destroy Baldoni and the plaintiffs. Lively stole the UFR film, stole the UFR premiere, destroyed the personal and professional reputations and livelihoods of the plaintiffs, and sought to completely oust them from the business. Moreover, it appears that Blake Lively worked for several months with the equally influential New York Times to prepare a false and destructive story that could be used against the plaintiffs. Not surprisingly, Lively prepared an administrative complaint with the California Department of Civil Rights, hereinafter the CRD complaint, attempting to use litigation privilege to cover up her behind-the-scenes conspiracy with the New York Times. However, the CRD complaint was filed only after the defendants spent several months feeding lies to the New York Times, with the intention of disseminating them and harming the plaintiffs. Lively delivered the CRD complaint to the plaintiffs during the Christmas holidays, and, instead of immediately filing a lawsuit, Lively, based on information and belief, released the typically private CRD complaint to the public, using the New York Times as a conduit for her revenge. This CRD complaint, and, based on information and belief, the false information provided to the New York Times before the complaint was filed, were full of lies and fabricated evidence. Then Blake Lively waited 11 days to file a lawsuit against the plaintiffs, which seemed like a desperate move after the public wondered why she hadn't filed a civil lawsuit yet. Based on information and belief, Lively never intended to file a civil lawsuit, which would have engaged the plaintiff's right to discovery, including obtaining evidence and Lively's appearance under oath. By the time Lively actually filed suit against the plaintiffs, the damage to the plaintiffs had already been done thanks to the months-long conspiracy with the New York Times regarding the false and malicious accusation. Unmasked by any privilege, make no mistake, these actions were deliberate, the lawyers emphasize. And Justin himself, this lawsuit, this introduction to Justin's complaint, is very personal, I think emotional. It was written right before our eyes. Blake's complaint and the emotions, as they are, came out because it sounds that way. So, we have to include Johnny from the edit, because not a day goes by in this case without new details. And obviously, their teams work without days off. They're playing chess. We won't interfere. We'll watch from the sidelines. What else was new since the lawsuit itself? First point, Justin's wife broke her silence and, one might say, spoke out for the first time about the whole matter. The fact is that on Friday, the 24th of January, Justin had a birthday, and she posted a message congratulating him. "My love, congratulations to the man, husband, father that you are. I would choose you again and again." Justin Baldoni's mother, Sharon, also congratulated him on his birthday and said, among other things, in a very long and touching post, "Maintain your honesty, and then justice and truth will shine." Well, that's also a subtle hint at the trial. And the second point, the second update, is what projects Ryan Reynolds is currently involved in. Ryan is now actively involved in many promotional projects for Hugh Jackman, his partner in the film Deadpool and Wolverine. The year was indeed not the most successful for high-profile projects. I would even say it was unsuitable. But apparently, they didn't know things would turn out this way. For example, Hugh Jackman had a loud and unpleasant divorce in 2024 from his wife Deborah Lee Furness, with whom he had been for 27 years. The reason for the breakup, as many believe, is Hugh's affair with actress Satine F. She and Hugh are now openly appearing in public. They are photographed kissing in the parking lot, walking hand in hand. And recently, I saw a photo of Satine officially coming to support him. And also, naturally, everyone remembered that Ryan and Blake's relationship also began, as many believe, with infidelity. Because look, this is the promotion of their film, where they met. 6 months later, Ryan and Scarlett Johansson divorced. They were married, if you didn't know. And many believe that a spark flew between Ryan and Blake on that set. And Blake, one might say, didn't deny herself flirting with him. And the third point, perhaps the most important in my montage edition, is of course the 10-minute video leaked by Justin Baldoni's team, in the person of his lawyer, Brian Friedman. This 10-minute video, with the original soundtrack, is from the filming of the bar scene. Justin's team claims this video, on the contrary, confirms that nothing reprehensible happened, and Blake made it all up. Of course, we'll watch it. What do you see here, in this scene? We see Justin and Blake filming slow-motion shots with music in the background. So all their conversations in this video are real conversations, as people, not as characters. That is, it's Justin and Blake communicating. And after this video, I noticed a new narrative in the comments, and I'm sharing this observation with you. It's that Blake developed feelings for Justin. He rejected her, and that's how this situation got where it shouldn't have. How do you like this theory? Of course, we can assume that there are some feelings, but I will remind you that we are watching a scene where actors are working. Yes, what's happening here? Acting. The Hollywood Reporter published an article with an expert opinion from an intimacy coordinator, not the one who worked on their set, but a familiar specialist who watched the video and gave their expert assessment. In this article, the coordinator, speaking generally, is on Blake's side. In the Hollywood Reporter article, the expert says that she can see Blake recoil from Justin when he reached for her. And then a quote, "From the point of view of the hierarchy on the set, he's in charge. But that may not be accurate. Obviously, she's the main star in the project. I didn't know who he was before this film, but I've known who she is for many years. Therefore, she's not entirely powerless. I'd say she has considerable power. But nonetheless, he's the director, and she has to, obey him." I was a little surprised to learn that this clip was leaked by his team. Honestly, I was too. It's not such obvious evidence. In this clip, Justin's side sees confirmation of the theory that Blake herself is not averse to, not exactly fat-shaming, but shaming, for example, when they bumped noses during a kiss. And in the comments, this moment was interpreted as, on the contrary, her predisposition to shame someone else for their appearance. Let's go back to the expert opinion of the intimacy coordinator. Here's what the reporter says. Baldoni's team believes this video clip justifies him. The coordinator replies, "Right, and I see the opposite. When someone has the level of fame and recognition as Blake Lively, they do have a certain amount of power, but there are also always relationships between the actor and the director, and the director is in charge. He's the boss." I will also leave the article with the expert opinion of this coordinator in the materials. Well, let's continue. Let's not waste time. There's a lot to read and analyze here. The plaintiffs now have no choice but to fight back, armed only with the truth and a mountain of concrete evidence refuting Lively's accusations. Heartbreaking. But the film Justin Baldoni, conceived years ago, was meant to honor victims of domestic violence by telling their stories with the high purpose of making a positive impact on the world. Now it has been overshadowed by Blake Lively's actions and cruelty. Possessing immense power as one of the world's most famous celebrities, in 2024, she used that power to seize control of the film, It All Ends on Us, which was produced by Plaintiff UFR and directed by Justin Baldoni. She intended to destroy the plaintiffs' livelihoods and businesses if they did not submit to her incessant demands. And when they refused to back down, she did exactly that, accusing them of heinous and reprehensible sexual harassment. Wayfair was stunned when Blake Lively, after the industry strikes concluded, refused to return to production unless the company agreed to her non-negotiable rules for protection and return to production. The demands for return to production, also called in quotation marks here, are listed here. The sixth point: follow, yes, follow me, which hinted at misconduct that occurred during filming. UFR was also stunned when Blake Lively used this document, essentially signed under duress, to seize control of the film, ultimately getting her own version of the film and the desired PJ sign, and, at her direction, ousting Baldoni from all marketing and publicity efforts. Excluding Justin from promoting the film had unpleasant consequences, as she chose to tactlessly promote her haircare products and alcoholic beverages, rather than draw attention to victims of domestic violence, which is the whole premise of the film. Baldoni, now prohibited from attending events or being photographed with Blake and the actors, promoted the film as he always intended, since he first began the film's creation many years ago. When Blake faced serious public backlash for being frequently called deaf to the film's subject matter, and in the film's press, she doubled down on the false and misleading accusations against Baldoni. She seems determined to make Baldoni the real villain in this story. Her publicist, Leslie Sloan, I remind you that we are continuing to read Justin's version of events because it is very important. Let's delve into Blake Lively's perspective, analysing the minutiae and drawing our own conclusions about each party's claims. Blake's publicist, Leslie Sloan, went so far as to spread malicious stories portraying Justin Baldoni as a sexual predator, a term Blake's husband, Ryan Reynolds, also used when calling his own agent. Ryan became deeply involved at a certain point, not necessarily from the very beginning. His involvement stemmed from the film's production, which is verifiable. At point 8 of the lawsuit's introduction, it becomes clear that Justin understood Blake's ambition to take complete control of the project. She underestimated Justin, believing his lack of media presence compared to hers, and her husband's, would make him easily manipulated, perhaps expecting him to temporarily step aside during the premiere. I suspect this wasn't the initial plan. Blake likely anticipated Justin's malleability and compliance with their conditions. His defiance, however, prolonged the conflict. Neither side likely anticipated such a protracted feud. Modern society rightfully condemns harassment and abusers, and Blake understood that such accusations would be career-ending for the plaintiffs, especially given Baldoni's public persona as a passionate advocate for gender equality and healthy masculinity. She didn't, however, anticipate the plaintiff's ability to refute these accusations with concrete documentary evidence, proving they, not Lively, were the targets of a calculated smear campaign. Under Blake Lively's control, she leveraged her celebrity power to wrest control from Baldoni, insisting on absolute authority over every aspect of the film, from wardrobe to marketing strategy and music, even creating her own cut of the film. This wouldn't have been a problem if it hadn't cost many people their jobs, and her creative decisions consistently demonstrated a fundamental misunderstanding of the book the film was based on. As the suit details, this wasn't surprising to her concerned colleagues, as Blake didn't read the book even at the start of production, the lawsuit alleges. A screenshot of the 14th of September 2023 message from Justin Baldoni to Jamie Heath is included. The beginning of the message is cut off, but we see the start of a sentence. After rereading the book again, which, by the way, only dedicates 150 pages to their relationship's beginning, we combine the scenes. Justin shares his creative vision. He continues, I understand why Blake doesn't want to read the book. Still, the book would help understand Lily's mind, her interaction with Rhyme, her thoughts. He points out the basic expectation that one reads the book before filming an adaptation, noting Blake's creative suggestions contradicted the plot, suggesting someone who read the book wouldn't have offered those ideas. The lack of context surrounding this screenshot and the information about Blake not reading the book is unfortunate. A longer message is oddly truncated. A footnote clarifies, Lively later claimed to have read the book, but text evidence shows she didn't during production, and actually stated she chose not to read the book. She even Googled her character's hair color instead of picking up the book. Again, limited information is provided. If this occurred very early in pre-production, it's understandable, but I doubt that was the case. Justin seems to imply that, even in production, she hadn't fully engaged with the story. Next, point 22 discusses Wayfair's 2019 purchase of the film rights to It Ends With Us, owned by Justin and Jamie Heath. Pages 12 to 15 include screenshots of emails from the book's author, Colleen Hoover, and the early stages of their adaptation discussions. Page 17 shows the 31st of December, 2022. The date Blake was cast as Lily Bloom. As part of the deal, she became an executive producer. Correspondence between Blake and Justin shows playful banter, including mildly suggestive jokes. This suggests a positive working relationship, initially. Justin claims Blake comfortably used the word N-word with the crew. Justin and his fellow plaintiffs use this to argue Blake didn't feel victimized and felt safe. The word suppositories is mentioned, which Justin highlights as an unexpected word choice in their conversation. Blake immediately assumed extensive control, as demonstrated in point 31, regarding wardrobe. Blake decided Lily could afford $5,000 designer ankle boots, a decision Justin disagreed with. This showcases their creative disagreements. She made last-minute changes, forcing costumers to make additional purchases that exceeded the budget, leaving them little time for other actors. My first question here concerns the focus on creative control. The most serious accusation, Justin entering Blake's trailer while she was undressed, breastfeeding, and making her uncomfortable with inappropriate conversations, is detailed in Blake's suit. Jamie Heath allegedly showed Blake a video of his wife's naked body and childbirth without her consent. This, along with fat-shaming comments, is mentioned as inappropriate behavior. Let's address these accusations, because the creative control issue is relatively straightforward. This document was far more intense than Colleen Hoover's books. I'll jump to page 19, where the events surrounding the trailer, breastfeeding, etc. are discussed. According to Justin, on the 2nd of June, 2023, Blake messaged him about her assistant not providing updated script pages. She claimed she didn't realize they were new pages. Justin, new pages can always be sent to me too, please, she wrote, adding a kissy face emoji. Shortly after, she messaged, page 35, I'm just pumping in my trailer now. If you want to work on our lines, come over. He replied, got it. Grabbing the team and heading over. The document repeatedly emphasizes that this happened after alleged harassment, according to their timeline, following numerous uncomfortable conversations and situations. Their account is that, chronologically, she invited him to the trailer after the alleged harassment. The document states, Justin maintains there was no awkwardness related to breastfeeding. Blake Lively was so close and comfortable with Justin Baldoni that she freely breastfed in his presence during meetings. She took photos of him holding and soothing her crying child in his penthouse. They laughed uproariously during late-night writing sessions. All these events occurred after the alleged harassment. Lively's accusations seemed to come out of nowhere. She even knew his tea order hot matcha. A message showing Blake asking, hot matcha for you. What about him? Is included. Blake's supposed discomfort with certain words or tones was allegedly comfortable, according to Justin. For example, during a restaurant scene, Blake sat on the floor in expensive shoes, discussing their sexiness with male actors and crew. She used the N-word, but seemed to take note when Baldoni used it. Blake's claim that two men repeatedly tried to enter her trailer, disrespecting their wives and children, is deemed unconvincing, given the numerous examples of their mutual comfort and respectful interactions. Justin's lawyer, Brian Friedman, on Megyn Kelly's YouTube show, denied any such assault and stated the photo Blake claimed was shown to her on set was a video of a home birth shown in preparation for a scene depicting a home birth. Point 106 states, Lively had an intimacy rider approved by the Intimacy Coordinator Union and had ample opportunity for revisions before production. Despite months of back and forth, Blake's lawyer provided no recordings, and she failed to sign her contract, focusing on getting her fee deposited. They were forced to pay her despite the unsigned agreements. Blake's text message, comparing herself to Daenerys Targaryen, Khaleesi, and her husband and Taylor Swift to her dragons, highlights her claim to needing their input on creative decisions. Justin disagreed with her reliance on their opinions. His concern was further fueled by Ryan's extensive involvement. Excerpts of this exchange are provided. Names, including Ryan's, are redacted in some places. Blake states that her husband and Taylor Swift are supportive collaborators and key creative partners. This mutual support and creativity she describes is positive, suggesting a shared collaboration that soured. Did Blake and Ryan pressure Justin's agency to drop him? Justin claims Ryan Reynolds, contacting WME, labeled him a sexual predator, threatening to withdraw if they didn't sever ties. Page 156.263. Baldoni's lawsuit alleges the New York Times misinterpreted Melissa Nathan's message. "You hired me for this," in response to an article exposing Blake Lively. Blake's team claims Justin's publicists deliberately targeted her. Screenshots of messages allegedly from an internal chat are presented, omitting the upside-down smiley face Melissa Nathan used, arguing it was sarcasm and unrelated to the situation. Baldoni's lawsuit claims this was sarcastic banter. Did Blake Lively's team attempt to plant stories about Justin in the press? He claims they did. In the lawsuit against the New York Times, Leslie Sloan is accused of feeding negative stories, including claims of Baldoni being a sexual predator and numerous HR complaints during filming. Leslie Sloan denies these claims. Many are potentially being used as scapegoats. Regarding comments about Blake's weight, Blake claimed Justin objectified her body, finding back channels to criticize her body and weight. He allegedly contacted her fitness trainer without her knowledge, suggesting weight loss. Justin counters that he asked about her weight to ensure his back injury wasn't aggravated during a lifting scene, which, she claims, didn't exist. He sent her fitness advice, but the main discussion was by phone, so the exact content is unknown. Let's address some additional points from Justin Baldoni's perspective. Don Durr, Blake Lively's personal trainer, is mentioned, page 69, as someone who could be called to testify regarding Blake's weight. Justin claims Ryan Reynolds yelled at him and subjected him to inappropriate and humiliating insults in front of others. He describes a meeting before resuming filming after the Hollywood strikes as a turning point, where Reynolds launched into a tirade about a list of grievances he and Lively had compiled. Justin says he's never been spoken to like that, and a Sony representative later apologized for not intervening. Reynolds allegedly demanded an apology for fat-shaming his wife. Regarding Blake's exclusion of Justin from film promotions, Justin initially praised Blake's contributions during press tours. However, in his lawsuit against the New York Times, he describes her and Ryan's actions as exceeding acceptable boundaries, controlling the film, and seizing rights for future sequels. He cites an interview revealing Ryan Reynolds' significant changes to a crucial rooftop scene that Justin had written. Blake allegedly interfered with the editing process, creating her own version and threatening to not promote the film unless her version was considered before release. The studio agreed to test screenings of both versions, with Lively agreeing to support whichever resonated more with audiences. Justin's version reportedly performed better, but she released her version anyway. The humiliating conditions imposed on Justin and his team at the premiere, allegedly orchestrated by Blake and Ryan, are highlighted. He was allegedly confined to a basement area for over an hour after the red carpet, along with friends and family, due to Blake's preference not to be near him or other actors. N. Kelly's YouTube show included an audio recording of Justin explaining this, showing photos of him and his entourage in a basement storage area, with water supplies and popcorn. The lawsuit states Justin's team was placed in an improvised waiting area with folding tables and chairs. The irony of being in a basement on such an important night wasn't lost on them. A joke in Deadpool is potentially a jab at Justin. Nice Pool discusses his wife, Lady Pool's post-baby body, saying she's great even after childbirth, to which Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, replies, "I don't think you can say that these days." Nice Pool responds, "It's okay, I identify as a feminist," which is potentially a reference to Justin. The complexity of the situation demands a detailed understanding of the numerous details presented. The provided information aims to cover the essential points, and further details can be found in the referenced sources. The situation is unprecedented, and drawing conclusions should be delayed until more information is available. The provided playlist is meant to help viewers follow the case and not miss any details.